Hey everyone, Lorianne here from Ink and Pen Adventures. Waving. Hi. I wanted to share with you, I've been going back and forth between my Happy Planner and my Hobonichi A6, and I'm still not sure which one I'm going to continue to use on a regular basis, which one's going to be my main planner. I think my Happy Planner is going to stay on my desk and my Hobonichi is going to come with me. But one of the things that I always kind of wonder about is, because of the Tomoe River paper that the Hobonichi uses, it is can be a challenge to find and remember which pens to use because of the nature of the fine grade of paper. I'll show you. You probably can't really tell, but it's very thin, and ink tends to stay on top of it unless it's an alcohol base, so this is really not the place to use Copic markers. And I've been watching a few videos that have given me some good ideas, so I went through and I actually did a pen test on some of my favorite pens. And the big one for this particular test is whether or not they're waterproof. I know there are some pens that I definitely will use because they're not waterproof, and I can blend them with water and turn them into watercolors of varying types, such as the Tombow marker or the Zig Clean Color brush, which I have the Zig. I don't have any Tombows with me, but this is the Zig Clean Color, and I really love this for watercolor, but that's not what I'm talking about today. So I'm talking about ones that do not actually bleed on this really, really lovely paper to write with. So I went through here, and we'll start with this, and I pulled out some of my Pigma microns. Now, I used to use the numbered all the time, and my favorite was the 02, and I still really like it a lot. And I have it in many colors. I tend to use black mostly, especially when I was bullet journaling. But that one is over here. And then I also tried the brush pen, which came with a set, I believe. And it's this one, and I do not like it. The interesting thing about this one is if you don't wait long enough, it will smear with water. If you do wait, it still smears with water. Can't really quite tell, but it does have a bit of a, I'd almost call that ghosting effect. It won't completely wash away, but it will smear, which will just make everything look really sort of messy, I guess, is the way to put it. So while it's a nice pen, I don't anticipate using it very much. There are better, in my opinion, better brush pens that are waterproof. So we'll put that one aside. Then I found these. This was actually recommended by April. Penguins Creative, I believe, recommended this, and I apologize if that isn't correct. The Micron PN, or I got it in a, I might have gotten it in a subscription box. That's very possible. What I like about this one is that tip. So sometimes I can write too hard and break these tips down. Okay, and it'll happen pretty much with all of them eventually. This one, the Sharpie, the Le Pen, the Marvy Le Pen, anything that has that sort of metal nib with the, I guess it's felt point. I'm actually not sure what kind of point it is. But they'll break down. This one I've not discovered tip breakdown. It has a more plastic tip. The writing is beautiful. These are the PN writings here. It also feels really nice on the paper. Go back over here. It's just, it sort of slides right across. It has a tiny little bit of tooth to it, but not much. Too slippery, and I tend to write really messy. This one helps me not get going too fast. So it's the PN, And I have it in blue, purple, black, and this sort of rosy pink. These colors here. And I really like it. It does not bleed through, as you can see. And not even really any ghosting. A little bit, but, and you can see it over here too. Put this behind it. And it's pretty good. So those are the Pigment Micron PNs, and they are waterproof. I went over all of these with water just to make sure, and they are. This is my water brush from Pentel Aqua Brush, Aquash, I think that's what it's called. So you can see that it's still sort of drying, but it is wet, and it doesn't bleed at all. Okay. So that's the Pigment Micron. Those are by far my favorite, the PNs. The others that I did over here are the Faber-Castell, various types of the Pitt pen in a 1.5, 1-5, 1,5? I'm actually not even how to say that. That's this one here. I like this one. I'll do that so you can see. It's a nice felt pen. With a nice nib. This brush pen, I actually don't really like brush pens in general, but this one I do like, the Pitt brush, because it's a good brush pen, and it's also waterproof. And then this one, this is too, and maybe this is because I have abandoned this one, because it seems to be really soft, really wobbly, and I don't know if that's this pen, if that's something that I did to it, or if that's a defect. So I might try another one. Maybe I'll try it out in the store when I find one, because I normally like Faber-Castell's Pitt pens a lot, and this one I just am not very happy with. So I'm going to actually do this so that I don't forget, because I really don't like it. See what it does? Ugh, it's awful. But these two are great. The 1-5, and then I also have used the Pitt pens that are similar to this one, and again, they're also awesome. And once again, totally waterproof, which is really great. I also use these pens in my art. I do mixed media art, and I use these pens as a little outline afterwards, and sometimes I do have to go over it again, and they're great because they don't run. Are all waterproof except the Pigment brush, which I don't really care for. I did tack on down over here the Sharpie pen. This is a standard in my, this is a standard in my kit, my pen kit. And this is the black one. And again, it's that sort of metal tip with the felt nib. And it writes really well on the Tomoe River paper, and I believe it is also waterproof. You want to wait till it dries. So there's the difference. So you can kind of see a little bit how it does do a little bit of smearing if it's not dry. But once it's dry, it is solid, and I really like that. So, okay. So those were the first set of pens that I used, expecting them to be waterproof and getting what I really wanted here. Okay, then I did another set, and I randomly picked another page, so now I need to go find it. Nope. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I don't know if you've heard of Kiki K. It's a stationery company. I think that is out of the UK. And I found this when I was at the store in the UK at Covent Garden. At Covent Garden. And I like how this one writes. I like it a lot. It's really smooth on the paper. I like the way the pen feels in my hand. It's a gel pen. And I don't remember whether this one is. No, not at all. Okay. So not waterproof. which is fine. I just have to remember that. It's part of why I'm doing this, is so I don't forget. So this is a really good one for journaling after I have treated a page, not before. And once again, just need to remember that. And then I don't know if you have heard of these. I used to love ballpoint pens. And then I got into these sort of felt pens, or these sort of felt pens. And I got away from ballpoint pens. And then I discovered pen gems. And you think it's a ballpoint pen with some sparkles in it. And yeah, it is exactly that. With the gem on the end, I think is what she calls it. But these are some of the best ballpoint pens I've ever written with. These are just a few. It becomes a terrible addiction. So if you start, you can't blame me. But they come in beautiful colors. And they come sometimes special designs. This was the Wildflower design. I have a theater company called Wildflower Women's Ensemble. So I had to get this one. I've always been a big fan of rose gold, even before it came back into vogue. But these here, this ballpoint pen, it just writes really nicely on the paper. Now, it is a ballpoint, so it's going to give you a little bit of texture on the back side. So even when writing on a pencil board. So if you don't like that, it might not be the best choice for this. But every once in a while, I just need to make a quick note. And these are what I have in my bag. One of these. And so I will use this. And I do really like it. It's a ballpoint pen. Therefore, it's waterproof. Which is kind of nice. Okay, now we get into the ones that I'm pretty sure are not waterproof because they are fountain pen inks. I have the Pilot Prera. And this is a very, very fine nib. I can't quite read what it says, but it is a very fine nib, and it's a blue-black ink, and it is definitely not waterproof, but it does write really beautifully, and it works well for the very small boxes on the paper. You know, you have this little tiny space to work with. You do kind of need a finer point pen, and this is one of mine fountain pens that has a finer point on it. And the next one is the Kawika Classic Sport. This one's in like mint, I believe, and back when Mustache Stationery used to be around, and was one of the first subscription boxes that I ever signed up for. This, and I have a green one that has a medium nib on it. And that's where I really started with fountain pens. The other brand that I use a lot is the Pilot Metropolitan, but these don't have any ink in them right now because it evaporates really quickly. So I don't keep them full unless I'm going to use them because it seems to be a waste. But the Pilot Metropolitan was my first, and this was my second, the Kawika Sport. So it has a not quite fine, not quite medium nib. I don't know which one it is. And it also writes really nicely on this beautiful paper, as I'm guessing you probably would assume most fountain pens will do. And then last but not least, for my fountain pens, is my Lamy, and it is a Safari Vista. This one I got at the Louvre, at the little stationery store at the Louvre. We took a trip a couple years ago, and my husband understood that buying a fountain pen in Paris was kind of a really cool thing to do. This one has a medium nib, and I don't normally like medium nibs, except this writes like velvet. So I do really like the way it works. And the great thing about this is, depending on the ink you're using, this is the purple ink, it breathes through, it ghosts a little bit more, but all of them are absolutely tolerable in my opinion, on whether or not they'll work with this paper. So they are definitely not waterproof unless you get waterproof ink. These cartridges are not waterproof, and these were from ink bottles, and they are not waterproof. So again, that would be for an after journaling, although I kind of like how that Kiki K gel did that. So then the last bit of brushes that I did a test on are these new Kelly Creates And they're from Michaels. And Kelly, I think she started brush lettering about 4 years ago. And these are a set of pens that she has created for her brush lettering product line. And I tested them out because I wanted to see what the sizes were, first of all, and then also how they worked with water. So the fine, the medium, actually these are backwards, let's do it this way. The fine, the medium, and the large. Fine, medium, large. I don't really see using the large brush in this except for big, maybe, I don't know, what, like the Nike Swoop or something, where I need a lot of space covered, because it's really, as you can see, it's a great brush pen. It's a really nice brush pen. But for in here, I'm not sure. The medium brush pen, it has a similar look to this SC, but it has a much more solid tip to it. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall or break. And then the fine brush, I do really like the fine brush. It also feels really nice on the paper. Sits on top so it doesn't bleed through too bad. Has a little bit of a ghosting. So if that's a problem, then it may not work for you. And here's the big test. Where's my water brush? Yep. Not at all waterproof. But you can work with it. If you are in a pinch and you want to bring a brush that does both, it would work. There are others as well that probably work better. But for lettering purposes and learning to letter in a more sophisticated, fancy style, these are reasonably priced, and the color is pretty nice, but they are not waterproof. Oh, look at that. I even made a note and then I just ignored it. So, and then last but not least are my white and silver pens. I haven't used these a lot actually in this Hobonichi yet, just because I really started getting back into this just a little while ago. I'm going to blot this. Completely obliterated it. So these are some of the ones that I do use in my artwork and in my journaling. Let's take that off of there because that's going to annoy me. So I did a little, and as you can see how the water makes the paper kind of, I don't know, crispy, is that the word? Maybe? But of course the Uniball Signo is pretty much a standard amongst journalers and amongst artists who want a little bit of white in their work. It also comes in silver, which I have somewhere around here, or I did. Yeah, it comes in silver and in gold. Oh, here it is. Comes in silver, comes in gold, comes in a lot of colors. But the white is one of the few whites that will hold up over paint. So this is watercolor that I used from the clear color, the clean color brushes. That's what this is. Okay. And then I was able to put the white over the top of it. Of course, there's always the Jelly Roll, which I do like as well. Never was a big fan of gel pens, but these, I won't be able to write because you won't be able to see it. Oh, maybe you can see it kind of gives you a little bit over the top of that black there. You definitely want to wait until something is dry, or you want to make sure it's color fast, water fast, because, is that a word? It's not a word. And make sure it's water fast because this will sort of drag it through it. As you can see, it did it there. And then last but not least is the Posca pen. And I have had Posca pens and paint pens advised to me long ago by Tamara Laporte, and these are some of my favorites. The paint in the Posca pens just really works to pop some color out. This probably hasn't been shaken. I don't know how really place to put this. There you go. You can see it. So it does a little bit of a really nice pop of white color. Sometimes the paint pens that I've worked with in the past, as soon as you put them in and they dry, the color disappears and turns into this milky white, which is kind of, I don't know, just sort of weak when it comes down to coloring. The Signo to me is still my favorite, but the Posca will work in a pinch, as will the Jelly Roll. So that is what I've been doing with my Hobonichi. I'm not entirely sure, again, how I will use this. I do have a Vec cousin on its way from Japan, which is the bigger size. Because I think part of this is that I'm kind of intimidated by the small size, which doesn't make any sense. It's because there's not a lot of room to do a bunch of stuff, and so I don't do anything. I've just tried to do this. These are stamps from Sweet Stamp Shop down in Palm Springs, and I've been exploring with working with some watercolor and then some ink over the top of it, and of course some washi tape from Simply Gilded. But that is my pen review. I'll link some of these pens if I can find them below so that you can check them out for yourself. If you do start a Pen Gems addiction, you cannot blame me. I can tell you who I will blame for mine, but we'll do that later. All right, thank you all.